Yes, 48 hours and 3 minutes late. We have been Nick delayed this week on MAFFS, but we had to bring you an episode. It was quite the week in Australian football. My name is not Nick Stoll. My name is Josh Parish, and I'm joined this week by Teo Pellizzeri. How are you, Teo?
Victorian takeover.
Well, it's fitting for a week where we had an Asian Champions League home fixture at Icon Park.
Hang on. Is this the week we go full project podcast? We called it the No Sharon rule. We've been threatening to start this thing for a very long time. Is this finally the week? I mean, Bailey Smith, it's a terrible injury for the Bulldogs, Nick D'Urbano. As I say, good evening to you.
Yeah, massive blow for the doggies, and you have to wonder, out of contract at the end of this season, Teo. I think has
he played his last game for the Bulldogs?
Nick? Yeah, has he played his last game? You call, you get on here on Australian football.
Can we just say, Dwayne Russell? If you go on Dwayne Russell's show on SEN, you play really well in the A-League. I'm telling you, Nick. His lineup of guests have been in red hot form. If I'm a Victory player, I'm lining up for that segment every week. And Western United and Melbourne City appear to have fallen asleep at the wheel here because Dwayne's world is taking over.
So what you're saying is, if you're an out-of-form striker that plays for a Melbourne-based A-Leagues team, jump on, tell your media manager, get me on Dwayne's world. Be one of the first times a player has actually said, I want to go on radio and do a 10-minute show. A 10-minute segment. So what does that mean?
How do you think he'll go saying Rukavitzia? Dwayne puts a lot of work in. He loves his Red Bull. In fact, we were going through his preparation regime. What was it? Triple shot of espresso. Then it was Red Bull. Then it was cans of Coke. And I have it on good authority that sometimes he will skin an entire liter of milk in one sitting.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, that's psychotic. That is truly psychotic. I mean, Taylor, what's your pre-game routine? Do you have, before you commentate a game, do you have any kind of ritual or pre-match meal?
Not really. I mean, my notes have evolved over the years to get a lot more detailed. I used to YOLO it pretty substantially. NPL Victoria got to the point where it was like sight reading music. I mean, if there was a new player or a new number or a new name, it's like, oh, something new. But no, I don't have any preset ritual, food, drink, timing, because there's so many variants. So I try not to get regimented, because then if you get thrown off, I mean, I'm not a superstitious person, so it doesn't suit me to prepare like that.
Well, Josh, we used to have a bit of a ritual back in the FNR days. Like, remember the old trips downstairs to go get Chinese before the show?
The popcorn chicken got a workout.
The restaurant called again at the Docklands. Jeez, I feel bad for getting the name. Not what it is now, but it was when it first opened.
I can't remember, but the sort of 5-spice popcorn chicken, I think that was our pre-show ritual for sure.
Julius Meinl coffee, that was like rocket fuel to the system. The amount of late nights drinking that Julius Meinl, accidental late nights, because you'd have it at 7 needing a shot, but you'd be up until 2 a.m. But anyways, enough self-indulgence for a
well, Nick, to segue to some actual football, you had a late night last night on sideline duty for the Asian Champions League as Melbourne City coughed up the lead and their place in the knockout stages. We're still waiting for that to be fully confirmed, but they really need a miracle to get through here after they conceded deep into stoppage time, a 99th minute header, I believe. Firstly, how was the experience running the interviews on the sideline, and what did you take away from that game?
It was a lot of fun. It was something different. We've had a bit of a rotating crew amongst us in A-League's land that have done the Melbourne sideline. We had Lockie Flanagan, Pakua Frimpong, and then myself. So a bit of a rotating crew of 3 amongst the key.
That is crew. Well, what a crew indeed, Nicholas.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a bit of fun, but it was just like, it was weird because, I was saying to you guys off air on the way in that I can't remember the last time that I was actually at Princess Park for like a sporting event. Like I've been there in the past, but for a football game, it just felt weird. And stepping inside Princess Park and you see all the Carlton signage and all the old signage like taped up like in the old grandstand. And you got a big football field with AFC signage everywhere. It just felt like even even stranger. And in terms of the interviews and everything, pretty stock standard. They come and go quickly. They're those flash 90-second interviews you see on World Feed that they do with coaches before the game, and then man of the match and a player from the other team. So yeah, no, it was good. It was the most interesting part about it was you do feel like you're stepping into a bit of a time machine as you're walking up through the old grandstands, because it is, bar like where Carlton actually train, everything is still like it was when they were playing in the 90s and the 1980s. The grandstands on that far side that's on camera are all the same. So when you're walking up to the media box, you're seeing old Carlton draft signage, Foster's signage, that's like really old, and like you just tell like it's literally as if you've just stepped out of a time machine. But the one thing that I loved the most was walking along the top there. You walk along and you see in any media box and any sort of thing where you got all the radio boxes, all the different signs for each broadcast, like every channel, every radio station. Obviously, they still use it for AFLW. So, they're still in use. But seeing the 3AW one just, brought a bit of a smile to my face. And I would suggest that for those who haven't watched it, search up Rex Hunt Smoker at Princess Park. And you know exactly why.
They say if you listen closely, if you put your ear to the wall at Princess Park, you can still hear Rex Hunt swearing at that passive smoker.
You can still hear him. You can still hear him transitioning from him yelling to putting out his cigarette to then saying ball inside the forward 50. So it was good. Like, other than the fact that you're fearing for your life afterwards, because I don't know if you guys saw the big thunderstorm that kind of rolled in second half stoppage time, but we had quite the light.
I have to apologize for that. That's actually hashtag Preston's fault, because we announced Bon Scott this week, and the whole state of Victoria has been thunderstruck.
But yeah, as a whole, it was a weird experience. It's one of those experiences you say you were there for, like an Asian Champions League game.
Only 2,400 of you can say that, Nick. So
yeah. And, there was actually a good contingent of Zhejiang fans there. They were actually waiting for the team as they came off the bus when they rolled in. I mean, it's always good with these Asian Champions League games. We've seen in the past when we had, Shanghai and Guangzhou, and having the really good turnout from the away fans. So I think, it was good. I actually really enjoyed it. I actually thought it was a pretty cool sort of just weird, like almost like trying to think of the right word, but
it was a novelty, right?
Yeah,
and that's what we're all about here on MAFFS. Strange novelties in football.
It's 30 degrees. It is humid. There are flies everywhere. Melbourne City's playing Zhejiang in a cutthroat Asian Champions League game at Icon Park. What more can you ask for?
Well, Nick, were you even alive when Carlton played in the NSL there for the last time? Because I'm pretty sure in the 99-2000 season, when they folded mid-season, their home ground was Olympic Park. So were you even with us in 1998, Nick?
I was there, but I was basically an infant. I
was asking if you got paid, Nick.
I was there. So I was there for about 3 years, but I don't remember a thing about it. And I got quickly reminded when I stupidly said in the media box yesterday, oh, would this be the first flare that's ever been lit off at Princess Park? And I'm like, oh, yeah. They quickly got reminded that it definitely happened quite a bit when Carlton.
But they didn't play there very often. I mean, the old Olympic Park, and more modern A-League fans may not recall that Olympic Park was a totally different venue, which got destroyed in order to build Amy Park and then the Collingwood training facility on that site. That's where Carlton were playing. From what I can find, and I'm sure the historians will correct me if I'm wrong, 28th of February 1999, Carlton versus Sydney United, 3-1. Just have a guess. Can you name... Let's have a little knockout. Can you name players from either team? First to get one wrong is the loser. Plenty of big names. That 1999, so the year that Carlton, I think, made the grand final. And Sydney United, don't forget, they were pretty handy back then, and also some timely names also potentially in their team as well. Josh, do you want to have the first crack? There's a couple of really obvious ones from the Carlton Golden Age, which you should be able to get.
I'm going to go Colosimo.
Colosimo. Oh, no. Don't tell me.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
I think
had he left already?
I think Mr. Andrew Cole may have had a say in Simon Colosimo's participation in that game, Joshua. So Nick, you can win right here. Nick, just name any one of the players that played in Carlton versus Sydney United at Optus Oval on the 28th of February, 1999.
Dean Anastasiadis?
Dean Anastasiadis.
I swear, if Dean Anastasiadis didn't play this game, then there must be some sort of weird voodoo on this game, mate. Like, everyone gets suspended and injured.
I got some bad news for you. The competition continues, my friends.
Oh, no.
I can't believe you can't even name one. All right, Josh, you're back up. Go again.
Who do I have? I wasn't really making memories at this point.
These are some of the most famous Socceroos we have produced. I'm not saying the best.
Bresciano? Did Bresciano?
Bresciano is one. Bresciano is one. All right, Nick, your right of reply.
I'm going to throw out a bit of an obscure name, but Alex Moreira, the Golden Boot winner from a.
Yes, you've got it. You've got Alex Moreira. Josh, your turn. Third shot.
I was hoping it wouldn't come back to me. Who played for? Did Fausto play for?
You'll both slap your heads. No, Fausto Diamicis, I think, was at South Melbourne that year. So
South,
that's a miss. Nick?
Archie Thompson.
Archie Thompson. Nick is our winner. There we go. Now, you could have also had Adrian Kujai, Con Anthropoulos, Marcus Stajopoulos, Sean Douglas. Who else have we got?
These are not familiar names to me, Teo. I hate to break it to
me. Lubo Lipsansky, Joe Tricarico, David Savinsky, and then on the Sydney United side, Velimir Kuprashak, Richard Plesher, Ante Moric, Joel Griffiths, and Abbasad, who's doing amazing things at Central Coast. And perhaps the most obvious one, I said it was timely, Danny Townsend. How could you forget that Danny Townsend played for Sydney United? So there you go.
Oh, dear. Well.
Are we having fun?
I'm having fun. Until about 10 seconds ago. But that brings me to the question we ask every week. What made Australian football fun for you this week, Teo Pellizzeri?
I asked one of our splinter group chats a very pertinent question, which was...
Was it the Judean People's Front? Or
No, it was the People's Front of Judea. Sorry to Oscar. So I asked the chat, who is the best Australian player currently playing to have never played for a national team at any level? So I'm not counting like school kids teams or, GIS teams or futsal or whatever. I mean, the streamline, the mainline, under 17s, under 20s, under 23s, senior national team. Who are the best current players playing men's and women's that have never played for a national team? Now, it's kind of cheating because Kayla Morrison got her citizenship recently. As we know, Marin Jakalic, regardless of what you think of how he's going, he's got an Australian passport, but Australian sort of, raised in our system rather than naturalized. That was fun for me this week because there is one player who fits that category and is a great favorite of our chat. She's in amazing form at the moment and could be in line to win the Golden Boot in the A-League Women's this season. And I just want to say well done, Sophie Harding, on her double for Western Sydney Wanderers this week, up to 5 goals for the season, but 24 years old and has never played for Australia at any level. And obviously the only level she would be eligible for now is the senior national team, too old to play for the under-23s. But we struggled with men's players. It seems as though very few talented men's players fall through the cracks without at least getting a nibble at some point. And let's not forget, like in the Pim Verbeek era, everyone got a cap. So even like A-League stalwarts who would never have contended for Socceroos selection again, like Lee Broxham, still have an Australian cap on their resume.
It's actually
I wonder what the answer is. I'd love some suggestions in the comments.
Yeah, I think it's a great topic because we were stumped. For men's players in particular, women's, there are a few. Polly Doran's name came up as well.
Vesna Milivojevic.
Well, no, but she's not eligible for Australia because she is cap tied to Serbia now.
Still eligible. I forgot the asterisk there.
Okay. Yeah.
Well,
no, throw it over to the comments. I would be very interested.
Is tough because it feels like every junior player gets called up as well. Like they always get a call up like under 16s or under 17s. They make one cap. I mean, we've all done it. We've done NPL games and you're going through the resumes of these new players and it's like, oh, call up to the under 16s Joey's team in this year or whatever it might have been. It's actually really difficult. I mean, probably have to go back beyond the start of probably like early stage A-League days to be able to find someone that may have slipped through the
But
cracks.
of current players playing, is the A-League already out? Are we already down to the NPL?
See,
Or
Ryan Scott.
Ryan Scott? Is
Yeah.
Alec Udashevsky a better striker than Ryan Scott is a goalkeeper? I
What
don't
about
think that's a
Liam-
disrespectful. I don't think that's a disrespectful question.
What about Liam
No,
Boland?
that's true.
Liam
Liam
Boland.
Boland, not a bad
Liam
shout,
Boland.
actually.
Is that Kingsway Olympics, Liam Boland? Is that where he went
Yes,
in
it is
Perth?
Kingsway Olympic. See,
Yeah,
I
there we
thought
go.
I totally forgot that Steven Ugarkovic had a youth team cap, because I thought for sure that he didn't, but he does. So I thought he was like a
Guys
potential.
don't fall through the cracks. They really don't.
Well, that one's
Jamie
going to...
Young. Has
Very
he had
good
a-
shout, I think.
Bringing through the youth, Jamie Young.
England under 20, England under 19, England under 18, not for Australia.
Well, hang on.
So-
Did those caps, given that they were in 2002 and 2003, does that mean he falls into the Tim Cahill demographic of if Australia wanted to naturalise Jamie Young, we could? Or is he in that
he was
sort of
born
Freddie Canute sort of, France to Mali sort of, switcheroo?
No, he was born here, and I think he has
England.
parents-
Yeah, but you've still got to make the one-time switch.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I'm no longer having fun if we're getting to FIFA bylaws, Teo. Sorry.
No, fair enough. Sorry, John.
Nick D'Urbano, I'm going to let that one just boil away in the background. If we think of any more,
I've got
chuck 'em
another
in.
name. I've got another name. I know he doesn't play much for Melbourne City. Jordan Hall.
Mature
Sorry,
age rookie Jordan Hall.
I'm sorry, but I'm taking Ryan Scott and Alec Udashevsky over Jordan Hall. No
So am
disrespect.
I.
I'm taking Boland. I'm taking Liam Boland, guys.
I want Iguodala. No. Nick, what made Australian football fun for you this week?
Well, I was going to talk about Princess Park made football a lot of fun for me yesterday.
Oh.
So I think I already did.
All right, should we leap to mine, shall we?
Yeah,
All right,
Josh,
so-
Josh, what
A
made
lot of
Australian
fun at
football fun
Princess
for you
Park.
this week,
Oh,
other than the
thank you.
first 20 minutes of this podcast?
Thank you for asking, Teo. What a kind question. I was looking through some of the exploits of our Australians abroad this week for a bit of inspiration, and I came across a goal scored by none other than Martin Boyle for Hibs against, let me double check who it was against, Livingston. The might of Livingston. It was a 1-0 win for Hibernian. Martin Boyle's goal in the 28th minute. I went to go and have a look at this fine strike. And unfortunately, I couldn't see much of this fine strike because this was the shot of his goal from the main camera. It's completely covered in rain and mist. And they're playing on one of the ugliest looking synthetic pitches I think I've ever seen. That looks like a Sydney flood, Teo. What is going on in the SPFL at Lockie Flanagan?
Sorry, what year was this goal from, Josh?
This weekend.
This weekend, okay. Livingston cop pelters for that. I wonder if it was a factor in Lyndon Dykes being overlooked for Socceroo selection. But you know what? I guess it's there for a reason if the weather's too bad that they can have a grass pitch. But look, it's a tough scene for the camera operator, especially given that when Garen Quoll went to Hearts, like we were scathing of the Scottish Premier League Scottish Premiership for their distribution and how limited it is globally and how they have all these sort of restrictions and constraints about actually trying to get the product in front of people. Even if you have the money, you can't pay to watch it legally. So I find it to be a bizarre competition, and maybe these are the things that they're trying to hide from the outside world.
Well, I was also looking through some of the other Aussies who scored, and I believe there was a former NPL New South Wales product who got in amongst the goals, Teo.
Nicola Oidur scored for Inverness, Caledonian Thistle. I actually called quite a few of his games for Rockdale a couple of seasons ago, and again, I think he might actually fit our criteria for. He's 24, so can't play for the Ollie Roos anymore. He doesn't have a Wikipedia page, so I can't categorically say whether he's played for Australia at youth level or not.
Transfer market. Let's have a look. Nothing.
Are we going to run
international
everybody
transfer.
through this filter? Here
Yeah.
I
I mean,
here
we
I
got-
was googling Danny Invincible, but unfortunately he's long retired.
It's invincible.
Invincible. All right, let's get on to the main story of the week. Let's not put it off any longer. Bruno 4naroli 4, Western Sydney Wanderers 3. Nick, just another incredible performance from Bruno. How has he done it twice in one season?
Because he's an absolute stud, Josh. That's what he is. He's just playing on another level at the moment. I think it's quite incredible being 36 and he's still doing all this. But the most incredible part is that all the goals are different. Like it was 4 completely different goals. The first one being a tap in. The second one was just some beautiful sort of striker craft of getting the ball. Am I going to pass it? Am I not? Completely having Tate Russell on roller skates and then smacking it top bins. A nicely taken penalty and then a header. I mean, that's one of the perfect kind of 4 goals you're gonna have. 11 goals in 7 games. He's on fire. I would argue that right now this is probably as good as he's played since that first season at Melbourne City. I mean, you could probably even make an argument that considering he's 36 and all things considered, he might even be playing better than what he did in that first season because he had such an amazing support cast around him in that first year as well. He had, Aaron Moy and Harry Navillo, etc. That were, especially Aaron Moy putting dimes on a platter for him every single time. This time around, he's scored a lot of the goals doing it a bit of DIY. Like, look at that goal against the Mariners, where he nutmegs one player, knocks it back the other, and smacks it top bins. So, you know what? It comes back to the age-old question. Should he go to the Asian Cup? 110% he should go to the Asian Cup because if we're going to win it, you need your best strikers available. And right now, he's our most informed striker and it fits the bill. Like, yes, he's 36, but we're going to win the thing.
Historically, on this podcast and others, we have traditionally been victims of the moment. Not to wind you up deliberately, Josh, but I mean, whenever Daniel Arzani does anything, we're all ready to, cap his ass. And it seems as though
that means put him in the national team, not a drive-by shooting on the west side of Los Angeles.
So that was a Dennis Green reference. If you want to crown them, then crown their asses. But he is who we thought he is. Back on point. The Stars are 9 for 80, fellas. The Big Bash is in so much mud. They are in barnyard slop. But the point I'm making is we are victims of the moment, and whenever these players play well, we want to rush them into the national team. The fact I agree with you wholeheartedly means that I'm falling into it too. So I'm purely presenting the devil's advocate here that are we actually victims of the moment and we need to get back to the Jamie McLarens of this world rather than going with the hot boot of Bruno 4naroli?
I think you should ride the hot boot. I believe in the hot hand theory, Teo. I'm not a doubter. I'm not a statistical doubter. Look, I mean, how good are our forward options really? Not that good. We don't have a blue chipper among them, I would argue. There are, some willing workers like Mitch Duke, who's, done things in big games for Australia. I guess one big game in particular when you think about that goal. But Jamie McLaren, most of his national team goals have come against the minnows of Asia. Yes, he's absolutely banged them in at domestic level, but this hasn't been his best season. So I'm not averse to trying new things, even if new things are actually old things in the case of Bruno 4naroli. And talking about being victims of the moment, I mean, if not now, when? It's his last hurrah at 36 to do something in international level. And given that he's in the form of his career, I think we have to take that gamble.
It is part of the reason that 4naroli may not show up because Graham Arnold categorically does not need to win this Asian Cup to keep his job, and in fact could probably even survive a group stage exit and keep his job.
True. I mean, I guess when he called up Bruno, he was in a bind. He was desperate. And now he's not so desperate, and there's a quiet confidence about this era, and he's going to see it through to 2026 unless he, gets some plum club job that usually crops up in the media mysteriously every year.
And when I say we're prisoners of the moment, if Iran Kunda, I mean, Adelaide obviously not going too great at the moment, but if Iran Kunda comes out and scores a hat trick this weekend, we're going to be saying to take Nestory. I guarantee it.
Well, that's what we're here for. We're here for the clamour, Teo. That's part of the fun.
That's what makes, you know what? That's what makes football fun. That we do live in the moment, and we are prisoners of the moment. At least when it comes to the Socceroos. So yeah, I'm only playing devil's advocate here. I think we should take 4naroli too, at least until Qual does something at Volendam or Nestori does something at Adelaide, and then I'll do a 180 backflip in true to form.
But I think the funny thing is, like, I mean, the other player that everyone is sort of hero through this period, and player that I've personally, like, I've said it, I've made a secret of this before, but Cassini Yengi is another one that, you know, probably should be in consideration, or someone that Graham Arnold probably will. I have a strong feeling that he is going to call him up. The thing is, though, I feel like you can call them both up. You can make it work because Yengi can play out wide. He's a lot more versatile. But the difference is between the two is, like, the one thing it all comes back to, and sorry to go a bit more X's and O's, but we're going to be playing teams that sit off, and we're going to need a striker who's going to be able to do something against the team that, you know, is going to put 11 players behind the ball, drag some defenders all over the place and cause some chaos. You know, Mitchell Duke, more of that sort of, as you said, Josh, hard worker, battering ram. But you need someone who's going to be able to properly hold the ball up, you know, drag players around, you know, just play with that 4naroli, what we've seen from Bruno for so long. And he gives that something different that I think all of our strikers don't really have. I think him and Adam Taggart are kind of probably the most similar in that sense, but 4naroli is in better form. And yes, I know that, as you said, that maybe that Arnie in particular isn't nearly as under as much pressure as he was a year and a half ago. But what are we doing if we're not going there to try and win the thing? Like, we just made the round of 16 of the World Cup. We should have ambition to go and try and stick it to the best. Yeah, this might be the best Japan team ever. Yes, Iran and Saudi are still going to be tough. But for God's sakes, where's the ambition? Like, let's go for it. Like, we've won it before, you know? Like, the last thing we want is to come out of this tournament and have another... Because you know what will happen? We lose. We're going to have another existential crisis. So like, oh,
No, I don't think we are, because unfortunately, trust the process and pointing to World Cup results is now the brand of our national teams, and literally everything else can be yada yadded. It's true. Even continental championships, Nick, can now be yada yadded.
Oh, I just
and have been,
man. I just want us to win. I want us to win. I don't want us to, you know, go there and then bomb out in the group stage. You know, like, or bomb out early. Like, that 2019 Asian Cup was miserable and we went out the way we did. Like, I want to see them actually, like, go for it and actually try win the bloody thing.
I'm not being a smartass. Is Nick D'Agostino
No.
injured? Is there a reason he hasn't played since the 16th of September?
Yeah, I think he has been carrying an injury for a while. I'm pretty sure.
All right.
I mean, if you look at the profile...
being serious, there is one name you did forget, Nick. And he's been freed up from his previous commitments over winter. What if Buddy Franklin played for the Socceroos? Got him. All right, sorry, Josh. Continue on.
Well, if you look at the profile of our strikers, you know, McLaren, Yengi, Duke, 4naroli, Franklin, what have they got? You know, I want to bring a blend of skills. I mean, McLaren has got finishing, and I guess penalty box positioning is probably his stock in trade. Duke, everyone says aerial ability with him, but I actually think it's pressing is probably his main attribute, and that's why coaches like him. He just works and works and works. But if Australia's going to have the ball, then it's not really that necessary. Like, who's he going to be chasing? You know, our own players. In these early fixtures in the group stage, anyway, I don't really see a huge role for him. Yes, as a target off crosses, I suppose, but I'd prefer him off the bench if that's the case. Yengi's got, you know, a bit of aerial ability about him as well. He's got a bit more, I guess, one-on-one flair and likes to go past people and try things. I don't really think I've seen very few minutes from him in a Socceroos shirt, of course, but he is in form at Portsmouth for sure. But 4naroli is the only player who, as you say, Nick, can play with his back to goal so effectively and bring other players into the action. And also, I mean, just like the form this season's been ridiculous. I guess one of the more interesting questions is, are Victory good, or is 4naroli just carrying them? Like, are they actually a good team?
Well, that's the $1 million question. What happens to Victory when Bruno goes on? If Bruno
Oh,
goes
Tony
on the
Popovich is probably on the phone to Arnie every day, just talking Bruno down. Like, oh, he was crap at training again. You know, he came late. His heart's not in it. I don't know what's going on the weekend, but
He keeps
he's-
talking
he's-
about
he's-
how
he's-
2005 was the worst moment of his life, and you know,
like Victory don't have another like out and out number 9 in their team. You know, there's the who's like, you know how like in the NBA there's like the panic phone call to those free agent journeymen that they go and call up like, you know, for a 10-day contract when they've got injuries and always ends up on a roster. Who's the A-League's equivalent of who's going to get the call in January on a 6-month contract to come in and start a few games? Like, who's available? Who can Victory get if Bruno goes? Because that's going to be the question. For about a month, Victory aren't going to have Bruno.
it has to be someone that's been in the A-League before.
Not
Yes,
necessarily.
it could, or it could be an NPL player. It could be someone from overseas. I mean, if they've got
So
a
international goal scorer Yui Ahmed, perhaps.
You might appreciate this, Nick. We're trying to find out who the David Stockton of the A-League will be.
I mean, it's funny. I don't think Arnie can win with Victory supporters because if he picks, you know, Arzani and 4naroli, for example, they're going to be like, oh, he's just picked them because he's sabotaging our title push. And if he doesn't pick them, it'll be Arnie hates Victory players, and that's why they haven't got their deserved spot in the national team.
John, you know that this game is built on each way grievance mongering. that doesn't sound like a lose-lose to some fans. That is a categoric win-win.
And it makes football fun, baby. Complaining.
Does Arnie send out does Popper send the SOS back to Tommy Juric? I mean, he released him, but I don't think Juric has a club. Like, does he go to him, mate? I know you've still got it in you. Come on, come back. Let's give it a few months.
Would Perth get mutual with David Williams because he's barely playing a cameo role off the bench, but he would move back to Melbourne, a city he's lived in before, for guaranteed game time, even if it's only for a short-term contract? Or is that not in David Williams' interests as well?
Yeah, I feel like that's short-term thinking, perhaps. But, you know, maybe short-term is what they need, and maybe what David Williams needs if he needs minutes.
Is there a Australian striker overseas that needs minutes, that needs like a loan deal or something? Like, is there, I don't know. It's a good question. But would Jason Cummings just go stuff at Mohun Bagan? I want to come back on loan to Melbourne Victory. Like, God, it would.
We all suspect once he's done his time over there, he is coming back to the A-League. I mean,
yeah, but he said on A-League's All Access, Teo, that he's going back. That he wants to go back to the Mariners. But now that Monty's not there anymore, it's a different regime. Like, would he? I mean, he loved it in Gosford, but look, this is all speculation. But you know, I think surely that they have to put an SOS out to somebody. But Liam Boland
is he just out of sight, out of mind now for the national team?
Kingsway Olympic, under the new domestic transfer system, Nick, will not be releasing Liam Boland. He's too important.
Imagine if he finally got his A-League call like this deep into his career. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, he can be the Michael Klinger of the A-League. Nick got that reference. For those of you wondering, Michael Klinger played Shield cricket for 20 years and then got called up to the Australian T20 team as a 35-year-old right at the end of his career. So
my brain went swimming when you said Michael Klinger. I'm not sure who I was thinking of. Michael Klim.
So then
hang on. Was the pun intended there, Josh, or not?
No, that's exactly. I just thought, oh, that's an Olympic swimmer that I was talking about.
Yeah. I mean, what about
not an Olympic Kingsway player? Yeah, sorry.
What about a call to Kane Shepherd? What do you reckon? Kane Shepherd might want to come in and play a couple of games. Oh, I don't know. Look,
Kane Shepherd looked pretty disinterested at NPL level.
If we're talking about Victory strikers, what about the triumphant return of Kenny FU?
Well,
yeah.
Well, I'm not against it. I'm against it. I'm against it.
All right, I've got Australian free agents on Transfer Market here. Stop me when you hear the answer. James Troisi, Joel Chianese, Osama Malik, Apostolos Gianu, Tommy Juric, Bernie
That's
Yapini.
The one. They're the two. You can see it. You can see it.
Apoyanu is absolutely the move. Big, tall timber up top. I wonder if he'd be any good in the A-League, Apoyanu. We saw
He played for
glimpses of him for the
MacArthur.
Socceroos. Yeah,
Played for
it's true.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about
Yeah,
his
so the question
forgettables.
stands, would he be any good in the A-League, Nick?
Should we talk about MacArthur's rise to the top of the table?
Well, hold on.
This is
Let's just
extraordinary.
Finish off with Victory. You asked the question, are Victory any good? I still think they've got something, but they need someone else to start finishing because they actually create a lot of chances that aren't Bruno, but no one else has been able to finish for them. That's been the issue. I actually think they're all right, but, time will tell.
Can we give Daniel Arzani like private finishing lessons after training? Can that be all he does for the next month? Just like a Bruno 4naroli, this is my masterclass. He gets into so many good goal scoring positions, and he would absolutely explode. His rep would explode. He'd be straight back in the Socceroos team if he could just convert a few of them. And sometimes it's been his teammates not converting the chances he creates as well. But he's so close to being so special again. I think there's definitely something there. And
he just needs one, Josh. I think he just needs one. It's like his counterpart in the women's team, Correa Aquino. She just needed one. Once she got one, now the goals are going to come flooding through. And I feel like if Daniel Arzani gets one, then that's the end game right there.
Let's talk about Sydney FC 0, MacArthur 2. Slightly controversial red card early in this game. I was delighted by Andrew Redmayne's positioning. Again, chasing the dragon of the 2-7-2 Thiago Motta dream with Andrew Redmayne stepping into midfield. But alas, he was caught out for it. And then MacArthur slowly but surely picked them off. Valère Germain with a very nice goal. Nick, what have you made of this MacArthur resurgence this season under Mile Stajovski? Why are they so much better than they were last year? Or is it just too soon to say and the variance might shake them out into mid-table soon enough?
Well, it's funny. I was saying this on the official Isuzu Daily podcast. Give us on Spotify as well. I was saying that it feels weird because like they actually have been so hard. As much as they did concede 3 goals against Adelaide, like they're just it's that intangible like grittiness that they've got. Like they never say die. Like it seems so boring and so cliche and so DNA blah blah blah. But like they're just never out of a game, and they just keep finding a way to get results. And it kind of reminds me the one example that always comes back to mind to me is that it reminds me a lot of when Western United won the championship, and we're just waiting for it. Like they're going to have to lose eventually. They can't keep winning 1-0 every week. They can't. What ended up happening? They won the championship. Now, again, I'm not saying they're going to win it, but what I'm saying is like that they're getting momentum. Like each of these wins, it's slowly building that little bit more momentum. They've actually got a lot of really nice players in the final third. Like I don't mind Valère Germain at all. I just think he's been pretty good. Ulysses Davila looks, refreshed since he hasn't been really traveling to Asia. He looks like he's playing really well. But the star in all this has been Jake Holman. Like he's a special talent, and MacArthur's got a really good player there. Whether they can sustain it, I'm not sure because look, you'd expect they're going to get through to the next round to the AFC Cup. They just need to go out and get 3 points against Dynamic Herb tomorrow. But that will be the question later in the year, like having to travel with AFC commitments. If the squad gets a few injuries, how that sort of stacks up, what they do in January. But yeah, like it's weird. It's weird because like they just keep, it seems boring to say, but they just keep finding a way to get results. And it seems like in a way, there's no real rhyme or reason to it because sometimes they haven't been the better team, but they've been able just to get results when it matters. And considering how tight it is, like that's all that matters at the end of the day, because, you keep yourself in amongst it. They're going to be in a good position come the end of the year.
Is that what the Phnom Penh Crown manager is saying to the media over in Cambodia, doing a Keegan-style rant? They've got to go to Dynamic Herb and get something. We're still fighting for this title. Is that a tough place to go, Teo? Dynamic Herb? Is that a tough away venue?
You know what? Given that they were beaten, was it them or the Mariners who were beaten in Cambodia? It was MacArthur.
It was MacArthur lost in Cambodia. Yeah.
No, of course it's a tough place to go. Not as tough as Sydney this week if you were trying to fly home, at least from what I've heard. Commiserations to everyone who got stuck at the airport for consecutive days. But I do think that Andrew Redmayne let me personally down because he was the goalkeeper in my fantasy team, and I persisted with him through Sydney's shaky start to the season, and he rewarded me by getting sent off. So, look, it's funny you mentioned will they even out and come back to the pack, Josh? Absolutely, yes, they will. I don't think there's a special team in this year's A-League men's. I really think it's can you bootstrap yourself onto the top 6 race and hit form at some point. And, I mean, in terms of putting the line through a team, I would almost venture to say that Western United is the only team you can put the line through to say they will not win the championship this season. I'm not ready yet to put the line through any of the other 11 teams, especially when Newcastle can... Even Perth, because they've got such a back-ended fixture with so many games at home in a row. But especially when a team like Newcastle can go to Wellington and win 3-0 and be as convincing as they were, I still think it's a wide-open competition. And I'm not raining on MacArthur's parade. They are top for a reason right now, but I just don't think it's going to be... Yeah, this ladder's going to shake up every week of the season, and I'm just not sure what sort of, segmenting we're going to see in the table anytime soon, other than Western United are losing touch. And to be honest, Perth, points-wise, would probably want to get a wriggle on and not rely on that run of where I think they have 6 out of 8 games at home.
I'm just looking up the stadium where MacArthur are playing, the Rizal Memorial Stadium in Manila, and it adjoins a baseball stadium of the same name. So theoretically, someone could hit a line drive into the football field, like a double homer out of the stadium and then into the adjacent one. That's what I want to see during this game. Keep an eye out for any falling baseballs.
Who's Australian football's Shohei Ohtani? Now that we're going to bring this back, who is our Shohei Ohtani?
I think the last thing we need is a salary cap scandal right now, Nick. It's funny you mentioned... I'm not saying the A-Leagues, I'm saying it just in general. It's funny you mentioned, Josh, a dual-use baseball football stadium. It's kind of like, are they the Oakland Athletics of the Philippines Football League?
There's us. Yeah, everyone knows the rest of that one.
Yeah.
But as Oscar has pointed out, bullpen worldwide. The bullpen could be going to the bullpen. That's very, very good.
Excellent point. Is that Oscar the Graduate, or is that a third Oscar?
That is Oscar the Graduate, I believe.
Oscar the Graduate. There we go.
Congratulations, Oscar. Also, good
shout
from...
done, Oscar.
Well, good shout from Will. Anthony Caceres doesn't have any youth national team caps by the looks of things. Also, I found Tommy Uzcock, another example of a player with no youth team appearances.
I mean, that's a great shout because he's a classic example of someone who was a very good, above average NPL player that all it took was the right coach to get a job in the A-League. And then all of a sudden, he's basically been a permanent fixture in the A-League, for 4-5 seasons now. And he's got 70, 80 games to his name all of a sudden. But you would have been forgiven for thinking after his guest stint at the Central Coast Mariners that was it. He had his one look and he'll be an NPL fixture for the rest of his career. But in that initial run in the early 2010s, he was always an above average player. It's just that, he wasn't kind of loved by the system.
Here's one. Matt Miller.
Oh, MacArthur, full of them.
Yeah.
Matt Miller? It's funny that Matt Miller was on the books of Melbourne City for years and years and years, and he was kind of like quite a few of his generation of Melbourne City NPL players. They played for their NPL team for quite some time, but never actually graduated to the senior team, or if they did, it was a stint, one spot on the bench, and that's it. Thanks for coming. And Matt Miller, I think he actually in consecutive years won NPL Young Player of the Year, but one of them playing for Melbourne City. And yet again, it wasn't until, almost as a mature age developing player, he was actually recognised by the A-League system and given a go.
Would have been after he won the MP. Well, was he there? He would have been part of South's team that won the championship.
He was there 2016 to 2018, and then in the A-League ever since, or overseas.
I think let's not talk about 2018 with South Melbourne fans. I think that's a year they'd rather forget very, very quickly. The dip. But yeah, I think Matt Miller's actually a really good shout. He's like low key a chance to win MacArthur's Golden Boot again.
Is the trend simply becoming name of Victorian? Nick has this low key?
Yeah, I'll give you another one. Nick Dacos.
Well, I mean, Josh said we need variety in our forward line, and you just need Cyril. Imagine if Cyril Rioli played for the Socceroos.
What a player! What a player!
Delicious.
Dear. Where should we go next? Shall we go to the Perth game, Teo, that you called?
Yeah.
It looked like the Glory were headed for something out of this game after City tried to take on the Tag stuff, but no dice there. They just can't get it done. Stages' team.
Adam Taggart looks so much better than last season, though. Like last season, he was very reliant on service. This season, he fashions his own stuff. His first touch is immaculate. Like his sharpness and ability to create his own opportunities out of not very much, especially back to goal, is phenomenal. So, look, Perth, obviously, they had that long stretch of 5 away games. Now, they've won 1 out of 7, which is not fantastic. I'll give you their coming run of games. Newcastle away, all of a sudden that looks a lot tougher given Newcastle's form. Then MacArthur at home, Mariners away, the only team they've beaten so far, but that is the New Year's Eve game. Victory at home, and then Wellington at home. And Wellington at home is Unite round, so it's not at home. But I don't know. Look, there's Perth fans are very happy with the way their team continues to attack and the style of football they're attempting to play, but the execution is lacking. Salim Khalifi looks a bit constrained compared to last season. Look, I think Glory fans are realistic about where their team's at after the ownership situation fell over. And I just hope they don't get stuck in a holding pattern of treading water, waiting for an answer, and they can still achieve something this season. I mean, they're women at top of the A-League Women's, so it's not like the entire club is struggling at the moment. I don't think the signs are... Perhaps the best indicator for Perth is their goal difference is only -4. So compare that to Western United, who are only a point behind them. Their goal difference is -13. So significant gap between the two.
Well, you think about it, like the games that they've dropped, 2-2 against Newcastle, they conceded in what, the 90, like last kick of the game, basically in that game. That's 2 points they've left on the table. They had a penalty
after the siren, Nick.
After the siren, it was basically James Bartel was, oh shit, tag, cover your ears. Points after the siren in 2009.
Really, really, Nick? I thought we were mates. I thought I was coming onto a friendly podcast here.
Oh, do you want me to talk about... Oh, wait, I'm not going to mention the other one. That's probably even more heartbreaking. Anyways, the Wellington-Perth Glory game, 2-1. Alex Paulson saves Tagster's penalty. 2-0 against the Wanderers. They were actually pretty good in that game and were pretty unlucky not to get something from it. Brisbane game, not great. Sydney game, I mean, they were pretty gutsy with all that was going on with the... the issues with the delays. And then Melbourne City, I mean, Teo, I don't know what you reckon, but I think they probably were good money for a point at least. I mean,
Jamie Young made some very good saves. And Melbourne City, I think if you hadn't, as a neutral, if you hadn't watched the Perth game, because it was the late night special, which finished at about midnight on Friday, if you had watched it as a neutral, you would not have been surprised by the final 10 minutes against Zhejiang. They went too defensive too early. And I think the temptation is there because they have veteran players with between 150 and 200 A-League appearances sitting on their bench, like a Scott Galloway. It's not like your bench is full of kids. It's full of opportunities, to consolidate and trust senior heads. And unfortunately, I think that means pulling up the handbrake a little bit too quickly. Ugarkovic, who was on the bench for the gaming against Perth, similar situation. Sorry, Antonis. Antonis was the one. Ugarkovic came on earlier. Antonis came on later.
I've noticed recently that Aurelio Vidmar and Unai Emery share a passing resemblance, but unfortunately they're not sharing the same form trajectory. Look, I think City will eventually get it right. There's too much depth stacked in their favor. Yes, they've got various disruptions and injury problems, and the schedule's been tough. But, let's not forget the 3 teams are dealing with that schedule. It's arguably worse for the AFC Cup teams because they're playing later in the week. They're the Europa League equivalent. So I don't think they can really use that as a huge excuse. Nick?
Yeah, I think the only thing, like having spoken to J-Mac after the game yesterday, he sort of spoke about just for him personally, and him and Aziz Beige have had similar runs. Like they went, I think it was Kuwait to Auckland. So Socceroos duty in Kuwait, Auckland for Wellington, came back home, went to Japan to play Kofu, came back, went to Newcastle, came back, went to Perth, and then came back to play here, all in the short space of 4 or 5 day turnarounds. And I wouldn't be surprised why they're so tired. They've played, I think, 17 games already this season because they had a deep run in the Australia Cup. So, I mean, I think that, as you said, Josh, I think they'll still make finals. I think they've still got too much quality. I think especially what they've got with Tolgai Arslan, who is just a joy to watch. But I do think that, that they do need to be careful with some of those bodies. Like, I am a bit we haven't heard yet exactly what's up with McLaren and Lecky's injuries, but I mean, God forbid that they're serious injuries because Lecky's just come back from a knee, now potentially a hammy. McLaren's got like a bone issue in his ankle because he said that like when he's been flying, like his ankle just keeps swelling. So it's just, there's no time to recover. It's just bang, 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 bang. Like MacArthur and Mariners, I mean, yeah, they've had their travel, but Mariners have played a lot of home games recently as well. So I don't know if that's kind of helped, but City's recently, at least, it's been a bit of a rough patch.
Yeah, I struggle to muster very much sympathy for Melbourne City because they've got such off-field resources. It's like, deal with it. You wanted to play in Asia. You wanted to be kings of Asia. This is what you want. This is what your parent company wants you to do, is to fly the flag.
Well, I can give a quick little update.
Are you saying, Nick, that Jamie McLaren has to travel to the Asian Cup via Tuareg caravan so that he doesn't fly?
Is he the Socceroos Dennis Burkham?
How would you do it? You'd catch a bus or private vehicle to Darwin.
Mm-hmm.
Then you'd get on a boat to Indonesia, or would you get on a boat the whole way? I don't know. You
go boat to then Singapore, then get in a car, and then you'd have to get around all the different, don't go through Myanmar.
I was going to say, how many war zones would you need to get through to get to Qatar? It's probably not the easiest trip.
Yeah, probably not for us to decide. But just an update for those playing along at home. Incheon and Yokohama both won in the Champions League. So I believe now the only way Melbourne City can get in is if Bangkok United beat Jeonbuk away. And for those who haven't been playing at home, Bangkok are already through. So I'm really hoping, for the sake of, just having an Aussie team in the next round.
For the sake of not immediately dating this podcast by within an hour of finishing recording. Yeah.
Can we just that's got a Biscotto draw written all over it, right?
Well, I mean, depends I don't know what team Bangkok have taken to Korea, but I really hope that they are coming with at least a little bit of, like they're actually trying a little bit.
I mean, given that Qatar is in the Persian Gulf, he could, in theory, get on a boat in Melbourne and just catch the one boat all the way to Qatar. But it'd be, if he left now, would he get there by kickoff for the first game? That's the question.
What boat is he on, Teo? Is he on a pirate ship or something? Like,
it's a steamship. Like
well, I mean, they
ones
do.
Are in the Murray. Like, that's what I'm saying.
He decides against it because he doesn't want to have to drive to Echuca in order to get on the steamship that's going to take him to the Persian Gulf.
I think he should. I mean, I'm not sure what the threshold is for the swelling, but I think he should go around the world in 80 days like Jules Verne and then just end up in Qatar.
Jules Verne is the journey to the center of the earth, Josh.
Was it? Who's the one with the hot air balloon?
Isn't that a movie with Jackie Chan that came out?
Yes. It's not the name of the character, though. I'm not saying
it was Jules Verne. I should never question Highbrow Parish. I'm sorry.
Is that Highbrow a movie with Jackie Chan and Steve Coogan?
These days, compared to TikTok, anything over 30 seconds is probably highbrow at this point.
Isn't that
underrated movie? I'm going to say, or that Around the World in 80 Days, critically panned, but I'm a fan.
No, it's highbrow Parish because the book came out in 1873, mate. So, you know, of course it is highbrow Parish.
I remember the release day like it was yesterday, and I still can't name a Carlton player apparently. Dear. Where should we go next? I mean, there's the Battle of the Aloises this weekend.
Yeah.
Which is it's an intriguing one. I keep looking at Brisbane and going, are they that good? Everyone against them seems to play poorly, but then when you see everybody who plays them playing poorly, you know, the last team to actually play well against them was when Wellington slapped them in about round 3. Maybe it's something that they're doing. How do you rate Ross Aloisi's work this season, Nick?
They're bloody rapid in transition. That's what they are. They are so quick.
He's unlocked the code, the cryptic code behind the A-League, the secret formula to success.
Yeah. I mean, he could have just, you know, looked at someone else's notes, but nah, look, they've got to their credit, like they have got a mountain of injuries and they are still finding a way to win. Like they have, I think, 3 first choice defenders out, at least after last week, Neville, Burke Gilroy and Corey Brown. And then as well, Florent Berengay got injured. Henry Hoare got injured. I think Henry Hoare's out for like most of the season now. Jonas Markovsky's injured. Aaron Reardon. The list just goes on. And they're still finding a way to win.
Nick, you've set me off because you just reminded me. Remember how Adrian Neville, WWE, insisted on just calling him Neville?
We have the false finish with the championship match. Basically, yeah, there we go. Josh, cover your ears. Wrestling reference, Rey Mysterio. But basically, yeah, I mean, they're bloody good in transition. They're defending well. But I think the only thing that worries me about Brisbane is like they've had a few late game collapses. Like you look at that Wanderers game, they're up 2-0. They start games really well, but as the game went on, they were a little bit sort of open. So I don't know, like they're doing something decent, and Ross has got them, you know, singing to the same hymn book. Like I feel like that Ross is a pretty damn good motivator. Like I listen to some of his talks, and I'm like, I could play under Ross. Like I feel like Ross would be a guy I'd want to run through a brick wall for. Like, you know, he's there's something about him, and I'm very fascinated to see what happens on Friday night because imagine Christmas dinner or Christmas lunch in a week's time. If a certain result goes the other way, I just feel sorry for the parents having to sit there. Like, who do they support?
I'm probably praying for a draw, but I one thing I do like about this Brisbane team is that they've integrated Jez Lofthouse now, and he scored over the weekend. And Jez Lofthouse is a player close to my heart because he used to just tear up NPL Queensland and just do tricks and stuff. Like he was playing a schoolyard game, and he got numerous offers to expand his horizons, shall we say, and come down to New South Wales or Victoria for a much bigger NPL pay packet. But he repeatedly decided against it because he loves surfing too much and he didn't want to be far from a good beach. Or so I am told anyway. So his only path to the A-League was at Brisbane because he didn't want to leave Queensland.
The Jets.
True.
Melbourne City literally have a beach on their bench. Like, come on, man.
I mean, what about, doesn't he want to
not
come
great
out
waves, though.
We got decent beaches down here. We got Seaford. We got not really for surfing, but we've got something.
Apparently the surf's not up enough in Melbourne, but he limited his own options from lifestyle choices, and it's paid off, baby. Jez Lofthouse in the A-League. I love to see it. Before we wrap up, gentlemen, Teo, what's making waves, shall we say, in the A-League women's this week? What's the big story?
Well, Alien Ant Farm 20 years ago wrote a song. And it's Vesna, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay, Vesna? I just want to know. Everyone's worried. It could be another ACL for the best player, most informed player in the league. We were here once with Holly McNamara a couple of weeks ago. I don't want us to be here again. Vesna, won't you tell us that you're okay? That's all I have to say.
Gee, I wonder if someone's going to hire a helicopter and fly over Canberra training like they did with the Matildas and Sam Kerr's calf during the World Cup. That's what we need. We need one of the pollies to put in a call.
I think I won't say the name of the journo, but I think it's a different style of footy journalism that might get us the answers, given that we're waiting on the results of scans, Josh, as opposed to whether or not she can train. So
what you're saying is we need to get the Canberra Win News team to head down to Canberra Scans tomorrow morning and do a bit of a stakeout.
That's what it's called, Nick. Canberra Scans.
Are we going to be?
We need Mitch Cleary on secondment. We need Mitch Cleary to the nation's capital right now. We need the best backwards walker in the business. We need Danny Weidler, and someone needs to frame him in, and we just need the answers.
We all hope she's all good because, as you said,
we can't have this. Just any player. It's sad. It's 12 months out of the game, but to happen to the best player, the most informed player in the league, twice in the space of a month, it's unfair. It's robbing the player themselves of a year of their career, and it's robbing the fans of the most entertaining players to watch, and it's just too much.
Allegedly, according to the comments, Alien Ant Farm did not write Smooth Criminal, Teo.
Yeah,
it was Michael. It was Michael Jackson.
2003. Jack, come on. Do you really? Your name is Jack M. Hang on, have you risen from the dead, Jack M? Or should I say M. Jack?
And Oscar says thoughts on Max Gorn starting in net,
by the way, rising from the dead. Just making sure that everyone knows I understand my music.
Look, Max Gorn and Brodie Grundy as dual goalkeepers for the national team.
Final point, because I know you've got to go, Josh. But Nick, you may be a bit young for this, but do you remember when Simon Goodwin played as the goalkeeper in international rules, and the Irish lobbed him from halfway?
Yes, I can remember that, mate. That's one of my first international rules memories.
and then I think he got replaced permanently by Dustin Fletcher after
Dustin
that.
Fletcher, yes.
I was there at the MCG that night. Incredible game.
I was listening to an interview with the great Irish international Liam Brady this week, and he made the controversial assertion that any decent soccer player could star in Gaelic football because the game is just so basic. He's like, you don't need to be big, just drop the shoulder and knock it over the bar. So maybe it's not the Irish Gaelic players that we should be importing to the AFL. That's too many sharing references.
Hang on, Nick.
Hang on a second here, Josh.
Irish footballers is something that you maybe took a great interest in last season.
Well, yeah, because I wrote a feature about Sarah Rowe. Is that what you're trying to? Yeah. Well, she did all three. She played all three sports.
Has post-show started, fellas, or are we still live? Are we still live?
I think it's just about time for us to wrap up. One more thought, Nick?
No, I was just going to say, I don't know about Max Gorn starting in net, but if I'm going to have to suggest someone to make the cross-code switch, get Darcy Moore between the sticks, guys. I reckon he'd be the guy. He'd be the player that I'd be looking at. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
An absolutely disgusting note to end the show on. Teo Pellizzeri, Nick D'Urbano, thank you for your company. I've been Josh Parish. This has been MAFFS. Like, subscribe, rate, review. Hopefully we'll be back.
Someone posted on Reddit. Someone still hasn't posted it on Reddit for us.
You got to post it on Reddit for us because we've all been banned for self-promotion, or at least Stoll has. And we'll see you again next week. Adios.